What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Point Man Podcast. I'm your host, John Imperial, and I have Phil Pelletier here with me today. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, John. Good morning.
Morning. How you been?
Still waking up, I feel like.
Yeah, did you have a good workout session this morning?
No.
No?
Just, it's in the squat rack, and I like squats, and I feel like I'm good at them, but I just could not get into it today.
Dude, I don't know how you get up so early when you're on your days off or whatever and just get up and go. I can't do that.
I have to. I mean, I get up with the kids anyway, so it's easy.
Yeah.
But, I just, you and I share those, little pre-workout drinks things, the Celsius, the Jocko, whatever. Yeah. And I don't know if I got to start drinking them like an hour before I go to the gym now instead, because I just...
Getting used to them?
I don't know. I guess I'm getting used to them. They're not helping as much, and I'm just dragging for a while now at the gym.
Really?
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you get up and you go so early, I mean, for me, I can't do it. I can't do it at all. I don't know. I got to have my day.
But I'd rather go in the morning than at night, because I hate going at night. If I go at night, I'm staying up for hours after.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you're pushing a lot more than I am right now, so.
Well, usually.
So today we have with us, guys, we have John Guarnieri. John, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
John was a Secret Service agent and is doing some high-end security in his post-career for right now. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we have in our hands to drink. What do you have over there, John?
Just cracked open a Coors Light. No, I got I actually drinking Spartan Brew Coffee, which is the coffee company of Barry Kurtz from Shinedown.
Okay.
So I've been drinking a lot of coffee lately, especially through COVID to kind of, I heard you guys talking about trying to wake up in the morning, but for me, that straight coffee right in the morning is kind of what gets me going.
Straight coffee, black?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is we could talk about it, but you guys kind of touched upon, like, the fitness part. But, like, before COVID, I was, like, all these extra sugars or, like, cream and stuff, and I'm, like,
That's
I kind
my
of
world.
felt lethargic.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just, like, if I could do straight coffee, definitely no sugar. It feels great.
That's awesome.
That's rough. I do the flavored cream, and if I don't, I can't even drink it.
Yeah. No, I'm
a sucker for like that pumpkin spice, that Christmas peppermint. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it does make you feel better if you can kind of avoid that sugar if you can.
Oh, without a doubt.
I absolutely believe you. I just can't avoid it.
Yeah, no, Phil, I mean, yours, when I used to see your coffees, they were almost completely white.
Yeah, I know. I have cream with a shot of coffee in it, and that's why I need like 6 in a day.
Yeah, exactly. What do you got over there, man?
We are, since it's a morning podcast, and I did just get out of the gym, I can't have a beer right now, so we stopped and grabbed us a Mocha Madness, which is kind of like a coffee shake thing, and but you can add protein to it, so we each have a scoop of whey protein in there and some oat milk. So hopefully it seems healthy, even though it doesn't look it. It doesn't taste it.
Where'd you get that from?
The White Mountain Cafe down the street.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And they got some good specialty drinks there.
They do.
Good food.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good place. If you're coming up to northern New Hampshire, definitely check it out. And so I got that going, and I have some of that Black Rifle coffee going as well. So
awesome.
Oh,
good
yeah.
Stuff. Good stuff.
So let's get into this, man. So, John, where are you from originally?
I am from Massachusetts. I'm born and raised, I'm going to say, I spent half my youth in Ashland, Mass.
Okay.
And the other half in Wellesley, Mass. And then right before high school in 2004, I moved to Pepperell, Mass. And so I've always been in Massachusetts from that part. And then when I was in the government, I lived down in the D.C. area, right outside Maryland.
Okay.
And then now I've moved back to Pepperell, Mass.
Yeah. So you went to Norwich right out of high school, right?
Yes. I did the Corps Cadets part there. I did Navy ROTC for the 4 years.
The Navy.
And then, I loved it. From there, I put all my eggs in the basket and kind of jumped into the government part. Now, a lot of my friends always are like, well, why didn't you commission? Because I could have commissioned as second lieutenant. Well, sophomore year, my dad got sick, had a brain aneurysm, was in a coma. And right around that time, I was like, well, if you sign these papers, you're going to graduate, do your 4 years, whatever, which totally gung-ho, and I love that. But part of me is like, well, if something happens, I'm gone, and my mom needs me,
Yeah.
or my sisters. I feel like I'm better to serve my family that way, and then still serve the country in another way. And so, obviously, my dad recovered, and then that's kind of what led me to still want to do like that serving the nation type idea of serving others.
Yeah, no,
and that's how I led to the Secret Service.
I'm glad to hear that your dad recovered. What was your initial like interest in government work, and or going into the military possibly with the ROTC, or working for the government?
I've had family and stuff. An uncle was a Navy SEAL on SEAL Team 7. Friends, other family members, grandparents, uncles that were Navy, Army, Marines, and I've always been fascinated by the idea of being selfless and serving others. And it's plus like when you represent the flag, and people say it's always hokey and stuff, but when you see like the bald eagle or like that red, white, blue, like for me, I'm just fired up. That's the best energy drink for me. And I just love seeing those men and women that go out there and do that for it's just incredible. And so if that wasn't, since I couldn't really do that, I had a friend that had already jumped over the Secret Service. He was on the presidential motorcade detail with motor unit, and he was saying, man, you're going to love this. Like, this is gung-ho. Like, it's patriotic. It's badass. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw my eggs in the basket. I'm going to jump in. And I did. And it was a great close to 7 years that I don't regret anything.
Yeah, awesome. How was your time over at Norwich? Was it, you hear a lot about like military academies like that. Was it the typical? Because I know you can go into into Norwich and you have essentially both. You can go there and be a part of an ROTC program and not, correct?
Right. You can basically go in as the Corps of Cadets, which even if you don't do ROTC, you still have to do Reveille formation, make your beds, room inspections, shine your boots, marching, Jodies. Like, you do all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ROTC for the first 3 years, if you aren't commissioning for the first 3 years, you still have to do an ROTC.
Mm-hmm.
I kept Navy the fourth year because I loved it so much, and I felt like I owed that department for my full years, even though it wasn't really commissioning, obviously.
Yeah.
And then there's the civilian aspect. And a lot of times, if you go up there as a civilian, they have a really great criminal justice program in architecture and nursing.
Okay.
And they're a really, really good D3 school. And so a lot of my teammates, whether it's cross country or lacrosse, like half of them were civilians. And so I got to kind of meet them. But a lot of times it felt like there was two separate campuses on one campus, that idea. But there was always mutual respect. It was also so cool that at 6 o'clock when there'd be like or whatever, where taps would play or this Reveille formation, or anytime there's this national anthem played, like it would be cool to see the civilians there stop and respect us and stop conversations. Like, it was just kind of cool. It really reaffirmed my desire that there are good people in this world, and it's a great country.
Oh, definitely. No, that's awesome. And do you so why'd you choose not to? Is it just because because of your father that you chose not to?
I was one of those things where I'm like, if I get stuck somewhere and I don't want to, if I'm gone for a certain amount of time, like I don't want to. There's only so much I could do away from home.
Yeah.
But at least I could be home and help them, and I mean, for me, family's first in that aspect.
Without a doubt, family comes before anything else.
But so I mean, it's just great though. Like, I have a lot of friends that are still in right now, all over, and from Italy to Iraq and all that. And it's just cool to keep in touch with them, because it's like, man, I like, it's like you go to school with these kids, and you're kind of like, it's cool to see how everyone is right now and healthy and doing what they do. It's inspiring. Good.
And so, how long was the actual hiring process for the Secret Service?
It started in 2007, about halfway through my junior year.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably took about a year, like 9 months to a year. And that includes everything from background checks to everywhere you live, to all your neighbors, high school coaches, CCD, church, priests, anything that could have anyone that could have talked to you, they're talking to. There is a polygraph test that it took 2 days, because they kept asking the same question, literally 8 hours on one day, like 2-3 hours the next, just to.
Oh my God!
I don't know if they're messing with you.
That's a long one.
They're just insane. Yeah, but it's like they're talking about crazy stuff. Like, do you ever like have thoughts about touching animals, or like they try to get you off your game with crazy scenarios, and then ask you like the same question 40 times. But
Yeah, sounds familiar.
there's that. There's a ton of paperwork, a lot of interviews. There's a post test or a post exam where you kind of like the basic police procedure type stuff. And then once you get in, you kind of get in a waiting pool. And then once you get your class cert, their number, they put you in your group. And then you get told, hey, you're going to come down to Beltsville, Maryland for your kind of one day, kind of meet your team class. This is what you're doing. Then they ship you off to Glencoe, Georgia for about 3.5 months of training down there, which is general training, but it's everyone from GHS, Bureau of Prisons, FBI, DEA. So you kind of work together. You're in your class group, but you are doing centralized training, basically covering from arrest procedures to
Really?
VBID training to everything, role-playing scenarios, any type of situation down there, you do that for 3.5 months. Once you graduate there, if you do, because people don't, you come back up to Beltsville, Maryland, which is the Secret Service centralized training. And that's everything from, they have really high fitness standards, like PT tests, which I'm sure you guys have to do. And they have everything from these scenarios, from working rope lines, self-defense, mock helicopter crashes, how do you survive that, motorcade stuff, driving, all the stuff you would do you could do in your job. You have to pass these certain tests, and you do that for 3.5 months, and then you once you beat that, you're into the clear.
That's awesome. How many people did you start out with?
Oh God, I think we started off with probably 25, 26 or so. We lost 1 or 2 due to injury in Georgia, and then we lost 2 to 3 in Maryland for injury. But yeah, no, we had a great class. I still talk to 2 or 3 of them. One of my good friends is actually just got out, but he was a counter sniper. 2 good friends, counter snipers at the White House. And so it's just cool to see, like everyone be successful and do what they can out of that, get the training they do, and move on.
Yeah, that seems like an awfully. I don't know if it's a small class. I mean, how large is the agency overall?
God, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, when I was I honestly think it's less than 10,000 people in the world. Probably 2012-ish. Probably. I mean, it's tough because I'm so centralized to like DC, whether it's White House, Naval Observatory, which is where the Vice President lives.
Yep.
Then you have the new Executive Office building. You do the Treasury building. So you have all the staff there. And then obviously with all the families and stuff like that, yeah, I think it's less than 10,000 people.
Okay.
And then every major city has a field office. Obviously, depending on the city, the numbers change, but it's definitely not something where it's like Border Patrol or TSA. Like they could. It doesn't even pale in comparison in terms of numbers.
Wow, it just seems like it's for an agency that's even that large, for a class of 25, 26 people, that just seems very small.
Yeah, they probably popped out 7, 8 a year.
Wow. Okay. That makes more sense.
There's a lot of people that do 20, 25 years in there. Now, I think once they used to be in their own with like the Treasury Department, but they got kind of absorbed by DHS. So I think they kind of changed the retirement. I think it moved to like 20 years or something. Then you can kind of retire or do a year-by-year basis. So yeah, it's kind of it definitely felt like you felt like you were part of something that not a lot of people are part of.
Yeah, definitely.
It was a good time.
Definitely. Now, did you guys stationed right at the White House or the DC area when you graduated?
I stayed at the White House for the whole time, and then so I had a house right outside like the DC area. So you just commuted to work, but that last 2000 and God, when did he campaign? What was Obama's last?
2012.
2011, 2012. Yeah. I think I was home like 22 days that year.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Right, and so because we were jumping from Obama to Romney to the VP back to Biden. I mean, so you're just jumping around, and like sometimes you're traveling in C-17s and C-5s with like the motorcade and all that, and you wake up in some cities, you're like, man, where are we?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, definitely. I can only imagine. It's like I would say being in a rock band, but you'll speak about that later. But kind of what city you're in today and where you're going tomorrow and all that sort of stuff. It's wearing on you mentally, physically, everything.
No, and like you guys would know, obviously, law enforcement, military, like it doesn't matter where you wake up or what situation you're in, you still have to do the right thing, and
exactly.
That comes from your training to your ability to articulate actions, and you hit the nail on the head. If you're not mentally ready to kind of like take on the challenge of the day, like you could get killed, or you could affect a protectee, or even people you work with could be killed by.
Yeah.
And so that's something too. Like, and I'm so glad you guys reached out of like the mental health stuff. It's something that, especially now through COVID, you kind of. I wish there was more you could do to kind of help people with that, but
yeah, no, try it. I mean, kind of one of the actually thank God for COVID. Honestly, thank God for COVID to take that back. But if it wasn't for COVID, I may not have started this. So I mean, we've actually.
And I don't think you mean. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, that's fine.
A lot of times, people are always like, "Man, I'm so glad for COVID," and I it might sound kind of like on the outside, like, "Why would people die from this?" And I totally get that.
Yeah,
but I do think this was some sort of a reset to kind of put us in check as a human race.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like, we could do better for each other, take care of each other. And if you don't come out of COVID better off than you were before February 1st, there's obviously you did something wrong. And obviously, if you are sick or there are circumstances where, hey, this is something you can't change or whatever. But for you starting this podcast, man, you took a leap of faith, and here you are doing what you do, and you're now going to put your voice out there to people that you could change lives just by someone tuning into one of your things going, man, this guy's talking about mental health. Like, I'm so glad you did this.
Yeah, I hope so. That's all that matters to me. It's if I can affect, or if we can, help one person, that's all I care about. And,
Right.
and, half it is just breaking down the stigma when and ending the stigma when it comes to mental health, and actually talking about it and making sure everyone's clear, good to go. And, I don't care if you're like, Phil was on another podcast the other day and he was talking about, the guy's guy sort of thing, like that don't talk about that shit. But hey, you have to talk about it, right? You have to talk about it. You have to get it out.
Right. No, it's one of those things where, like you said, like I consider myself an alpha male, and I don't mean that in a chauvinistic or like screw women, I'm a man, like that type of thing.
You have to be, because you're in that sort of career field where you.
It 100%. And I think part of being a leader and someone that, if you are an alpha male, you should show. Now, and it's not a weakness to have mental health issues, but if you can acknowledge them, it's going to help someone else that might not be strong enough to be like, hey, man, maybe I should get help. If this is a guy I look up to or a girl, and they're telling me they have daily issues sometimes where they don't want to get out of bed or they hate their life, and it's like, if they could, if I respect them and they can say that, then I could maybe listen to them.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's as a leader, you're supposed to take care of your people, and if you're not asking how they're doing, if you're not making sure that they're doing well, if you're not looking at the little signs like, hey, maybe this guy gained 30 pounds within the last month and a half, that sort of stuff, and obviously he's not taking care of himself. It's being a leader, recognizing it within your, I don't want to say subordinates, but within the people that you're leading, essentially. But recognizing it within them, breaking down that stigma, ending that stigma. Hey, go out there and talk to somebody, whether it's you literally listening to a podcast or trying to clear your head like that. If it's going out and talking to a chaplain, if it's going out and talking to a mental health professional, there's nothing wrong with it. Go out there and talk with everybody and make sure, or talk with people. And, I heard Marcus Luttrell talk once, and he talked about how, he was overcoming his PTS, and it was, he has to talk about every day because everyone knows him from that one incident. And so, for him, it was actually becoming easier to deal with his stress because he was being forced to talk about it and relive it every single day. And I don't know if it just, I guess, kind of like for me with podcasts, it helps me like reflect and think about what's going on, and just like I said, just trying to just make that change, or just help that one person.
No, I agree 100%. And again, it's for you to do this. It's kind of it's cool. I did a talk the other day, I think, with Mrs. Carey. Obviously, you guys have done stuff with her.
Oh, I heard. Well, I'm trying to get her on the show. If my computer ever wants to cooperate, we'll get her on the show.
Yeah, it's because her story's cool too. Because obviously, her fiance is serving overseas, and just dealing. It's just funny how, like, here she is, a radio DJ, or here I am doing security for bands, or here you guys, law enforcement, military, but we all kind of have that same type of fear or trepidation with certain things. It's more of how we kind of deal with whether it's missing someone or a tough day at work, or everyone can relate to mental health. And the fact that it's a stigma is so frustrating.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You have to... I don't understand why people are, back in the day when Phil and I were talking a few weeks ago now, and when his dad started policing, it was probably what? Don't talk about it. Remember you were saying that?
Yeah. That was kind of the end of the 80s, and I think the 80s were policing was getting better again. People wanted to be cops again.
Yeah.
But you definitely had that alpha male mentality.
Don't talk about it. Don't take it on your wife at home. You leave everything at work, and
everything
right.
stays at work. And I think it's finally getting out of that. In a lot of ways, for probably a lot of reasons. But I think agencies are really trying to see the fact that they have to provide better for their people.
Yeah,
and I think that is going to be the key, and that's what's going to help most people, is their agencies need to start caring.
Yeah, no, you're completely right, I think.
And like the fact that police officers are humans, and they might they're going to run to a gunfight or pull that kid out of a car crash or whatever, but it's like, at the end of the day, they're still humans. They have to literally carry the weight of their day with them. And yeah, I agree. Like, it's one of those things where you wish more people would kind of stop, could have maybe saw that before it gets to the point where there is suicide, or there is a guy that loses his cool at work and jeopardizes his career and pension and stuff like that. So I definitely
seen that before.
You guys are right.
Yeah. No, I mean, like Phil's laughing at me right now because I said that, but they're kind of like the reason why I named it the Point Man Podcast was, obviously, as Phil knows, I was the point man, or I still am point man often when we for SWAT calls, all that sort of stuff, and for me that kind of gave me like that sense of clarity, because being point man, I have to I'm first through the door essentially, and you have to be able to take everything in without being distracted by it and focusing on your goal at that time. And so I know, like, I've heard a lot of people talk about transitioning, whether it's out of law enforcement, out of the military, whatever it is, transitioning in your life from one career to another. And so I was able to make the connection in my head, well, you have to be clear in life. If you transition from one career or one thing to another and you don't have that next mission in your life, and you're going to kind of fall flat on your face. And so that was just kind of another reason why I started, was like to help people recognize that, hey, they do need another mission, whether if it's, whatever it is, if you're changing jobs, if you're, retiring, even if you're going through a divorce, then it's, you have to recognize what's happening, and then from there you have to become clear and concise in what you're doing and focusing on how you're going to better yourself from that point out.
No, and I know we talked about this weekend on the phone call, but it's one of those things where it's in the security world. I've always doing the hiring or like the firing for different stuff, and a lot of times you'll get like a resume, or you'll know someone that is just a badass, whether it's a guy or girl, military, all the accolades, all the ribbons, leadership, and all that. But 9 times out of 10, yeah, they're perfect. They get it. But you always have that one person that has like a stacked kind of like resume, but they can't transition over. It's like they're not used to the unknown. They're like, wait, maybe you can wake up at 9 a.m. now. I don't have to be shift. Like, I don't have to wake up early. Or what do you mean I don't eat then? Or it's kind of like, and I get it because they're so used to this set regiment schedule of training, working up, meetings. You're gone this weekend. You're gone that weekend. It's very fascinating. It's almost like when you have like these repeat criminals that come out of jail. Well, of course they're going to go back to jail. They have a roof on their heads. They know when the meals are coming.
Yep.
They know where they're sleeping. So they have that kind of safety blanket of the unknown. And so it's our help and we work with a thing called Skill Bridge, which is a program through the Armed Forces. We do a lot with the Marine Corps now, where you help someone that's leaving the Marines or whatever the branch it is. You give them 6 months head start to work with a civilian company, and if the government still pays these people as they're part of the military to get free training out in a real job setting, whether it's us doing an event or a festival or practicing just risk assessments in an establishment, whatever. And if they choose to kind of stay with it, then if we like them, man, we're going to hire you, or hey, there's no obligation to hire you, but we just got you 6 months of training to help you kind of transition into that civilian life. And it's programs like that is so cool. And it goes what we both guys just said, is that there is sometimes a fear or the unknown of what's coming, but if there's programs like that, like Skill Bridge, we can kind of help people transition into something where they can still excel at what they do, even though it's a little bit different than, say, law enforcement or military.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have anything like that when you got out? Did they offer you anything? I mean, it's kind of hard to go from being a machine gunner to anything else, but like,
right.
I just know
we did like a leaving class where they kind of just, told you how to dress on interviews and stuff like that. I mean, they kind of help with a transition, but and they want you to at least tell them a plan, that you're not just going out, and go live in your mom's basement.
Yeah.
Or hopefully you can live in your mom's basement. But I mean, they don't want to release you back into the world. They at least try to make it look like they do care, and
they're not just kind of wiping their hands clean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They work on it, and I think for the most part, most people do have a pretty solid plan, whether they're getting out and going to college or
whatever it is.
They want to go become a police officer or anything like that.
Yeah.
Straight into the trades.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a question for you guys, and I think you guys would be the perfect people to ask.
Go right ahead.
Is it difficult to transition from the military system into a law enforcement system? Like, what's the dynamic between? Obviously, there's civilians in both worlds, but now it's a little bit different, right?
So Phil would probably be the best one to answer that, because I went in the military later in life. So go ahead, Phil.
I don't think that it was too hard to transition in. I think it helps in a lot of ways because police departments, unless you're probably a one-man band, in one of the towns up here.
Yeah.
You're going to have some type of rank structure, so you're going to go in as the bottom guy. You've already been there. It's all about showing respect and having respect, for the people who've already been there and done that. Finding out who your good leaders are going to be and, taking what you, want to take from things that you admire, how they do their job, putting that in your toolbox. You don't have to use everything. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways I took from the Marine Corps.
Right.
Is, when you're trying to become your own good leader, you want to emulate, some of the leaders you've had in the past. That doesn't mean you do everything their way and everything, exactly how they did. You take what you like about them and what they did, and you put that, into your own repertoire of tools to be a leader, you know, and you're building off of all the people that you admire. So, it's not just you're only like, I admired Sergeant Bush when I was in. I had a lot of great sergeants. He's the one who comes to mind first. He was my first like big impact.
Yeah.
But I don't do everything his way. So it's a matter of building, all that. So I think I just brought that over to law enforcement, and you have, I don't know how many FTOs. I mean,
Yeah.
2, 3, and then if you switch PDs, another 2 or 3 or whatever. And just the guys that you work with, just because they're not in a leadership position doesn't mean that you can't, pull things that they do that you like.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's kind of like, I like, speaking at it from the law enforcement side, this sergeant over here may be more compassionate towards people, but I like the way that this person over here deals with the youth, or this one over here. I like the way he or she their arrest procedures. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of take a little bit of everything and you mesh it all together, and I think and you make it into your own. But I think just coming out of that transition out of the military into law enforcement, it's easy because it provides you. I mean, Phil obviously came from the Marine Corps, so it's probably a little bit more strict, but it's that regimented lifestyle, but at a relaxed pace. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question really correctly,
No,
John, but I think I think that it just, for me, going through into that mindset helped the transition. And like John said, like I think people who are in the military, to go out and maybe be your own boss where there is no, regimented, or you're in charge of, all that. For me, that would have been probably a little harder. I don't know if I have the self-discipline. I know I didn't have it then, if I have it now.
Well, you mean, look, everyone makes fun of Jocko, whatever. Like, he gets up at 4:30 every morning, whatever it is, post that picture. But at the same time, he's out and he's
just got a stockpile of those pictures.
Never know.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but he's taking pictures at 4:30 in the morning, getting his workout done. But it's providing that regimented lifestyle from obviously when he was in the SEAL teams to maintaining that that success. If he came out and just kind of went the old just kind of drink every day and kind of.
Who are you guys talking about?
Jocko Willink. Do you know him? You ever heard of him? He did the Jocko podcast. No.
Was he the demolition team Navy SEAL?
He was Chris Kyle's commander in Ramadi.
Okay, maybe. I sounds familiar. That's why when I heard the last name, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't know him. I mean, it's just one of those things. But he does the Jocko podcast, and when you hear him talk about getting up every morning, just maintaining that discipline throughout daily life, it's just kind of that's just, I think, kind of what you need to do even when you transition out of the military to law enforcement, just maintaining that discipline.
What do you guys do for? I'm sorry if I'm asking you guys the questions.
Go right ahead, man.
What do you guys do for? So, say you wake up. Well, I'll tie this back into the kind of mental health. Say on an average day, you wake up feeling fine. How do you guys kind of get the day going? Obviously, does it change at all from law enforcement, military to, hey, you have a day off? Are you on a Sunday morning? You don't have to work. Are you doing the same stuff you do on, say, a Monday where you are heading off to work?
Like when you wake up every morning?
Yeah, what do you guys, is there a set routine where you guys have to do something, whether it is to work out, drink the energy drink, or is there stuff like that where you kind of, is that something that's regiment? Like you wake up, brush your teeth, shave, you just kind of...
Yeah, I feel like you want to go with that one right now?
Well, your schedule's different than mine. I wake up and, I try and start the day with the gym.
I mean, dude, you're up early every day going to the gym, probably between 7 and 8.
I'm up at 7. I don't want to say it's super early.
I've gotten your Snapchats between 7 and 8 if you're at the gym, so
yeah. I try and get up and out the door and started. I do, for me personally, I like to be in the gym, and that's how I get my day going. I think mentally that is really helping me stay focused right now. I need it. I mean, I don't want to use this word casually, but it's like my drug.
Yeah.
So I got to get up, and I do have days off, and on my days off, I wake up and I'll just go up, hang out with my daughter, have a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
watch some TV. So those are, there's two different routines, but
Right.
yeah, I need to do that, and it really,
Probably helps you more than you think.
yeah, it does. And I'm transitioning now, so it's a little bit different. But on my work schedule that I had, I used to make sure I hit the gym before work,
Yeah.
and basically, I don't know if this is how you do it, John, but for the most part, I really only was in the gym before work.
I can't go after work.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just hard after.
'cause
And I guess it depends on when you're getting out. But
Yeah. I mean, we work, John, we work 12-hour shifts. So we work
Yeah.
6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we have a 2-week swap between days and mids. And so, yeah. So every 2 weeks you're going from days to midnights, and it's not bad. I mean, I do like the 12-hour schedule. I just hate the 2-week swap. That's the only part of it that I don't like.
Right. It must be tough too on your mental stability if you do have kids or a wife or a partner, or that must have some sort of kind of I don't want to say negative effect, but it must be tough to kind of deal with that.
Yeah. So for me, it all comes down to, I think, having that stable relationship. And man, I was
Right.
I don't like, I'm not going to bring up my past or anything like that, but in my opinion, I was not in a stable relationship. And so
Right.
it all depends on if you have that great partner that supports you in what you're doing and is there backing you up. And, and if you have that structure at home, it'll only make you so much more able, or be able to succeed so much more at work. And so if I didn't have that now, I don't think I'd be able to, be doing as well as I am. But if I'm working days, man, I honestly, I'll get up at 5:15, throw my shit on, shave, and run off to work. And that's just the way I am. And at 6, at 6 p.m. when I'm out, that's when I try to make my way to the gym, and I'll do it for maybe that most is an hour, and I'm cooked at the end of that. And, physically, mentally just drained, because I don't think people realize.
It's a long day.
Yeah, just mentally. I mean, people don't realize how often you're looking at things when you're driving your car. And then think about how many times you look at something when you're in a cruiser. You're constantly looking around, constantly taking in your surroundings, and it's just mentally exhausting. So
Especially now when everyone wants to defund the police and people hate cops.
Oh yeah, exactly, right, exactly. Yeah, it's thankfully we haven't had too much of that up here, but we've had a few stragglers that are coming in from other states that are looking to cause issues, but it hasn't been, it's more of those isolated incidents rather than just the whole defund the police movement. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but on my days off, honestly, man, I get about I'm such a night owl. I get 4 to 5 hours of sleep when I'm working, like on my days that I'm working, and then I have to recoup those days off. And it does take, especially with those shifts and being in an active department, it does take a toll on you physically and mentally. And on my days off, I'm just going down to see my fiance and just hanging out with her and going from there. So, but yeah, and then for the gym itself, we're both active people, and for me, if being active is a part of actually getting out of like that mental headspace. If you're feeling like crap, if you're feeling down on yourself, whatever reason, my suggestion is always be to get out of your head and into your body and doing something active and just maintaining that lifestyle.
No, I love that.
So, but yeah, no, it's definitely a long career and long day if you don't do that sort of stuff to make yourself fresh and keep going.
Right.
Did you find yourself working out a lot when you were on the job?
Yeah, I mean, there was certain physical type of things where you had to kind of maintain. Some more so than others. I've always been someone that's athletic.
Mm-hmm.
But something what I noticed when COVID hit, I mean, before COVID, like I'm traveling literally the world 10 times over with bands and stuff.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I've always been like, well, I don't have time to do that workout. But now with COVID, I'm kind of like, man, I have 10 minutes. I could knock out 100 push-ups, or I kind of find value now in making time for the stuff to make myself feel healthy and sane and
Yeah.
strong. And now I've lost like 15 pounds through COVID.
Awesome.
I've had like this love of working out and just being better. Like we partnered up my company with a company called Chop Fit,
Okay.
which is like this weighted axe. And I'm an outdoor guy. I love yard work, knocking down trees, cut grass, lifting stone. And so for me, swinging and doing these movements with a weighted axe, I kind of felt like it was fun.
So
for me, fitness has to be fun. Empty kegs, tire pulls, battle ropes. That's stuff that I love. I do actively now. I've never been someone that going through high school, okay, guys, run on the treadmill. Then we're going to do the squat rack. Then we're going to do the chest fly, and then the trap pull down. I'm just like,
it get boring with that after a while.
Right. And it's not like I don't respect it, because clearly it works
for
people. For me, my own mentality is I need to make this fun for me. I don't know why my brain processes it like that, but I need my workouts to be fun. And so
what's that thing called again? Chop Fit?
Yeah, Chop Fit.
Go ahead and plug it if you want.
They're great people, and it's just something where I've kind of literally lost just over 15 pounds. And
awesome.
It's just this really cool type of thing where you just work out anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, and then they create these circuits. It's app-based. The app is free. And then it's just a fun thing where you can kind of just change up the monotony of like working your core or balance and just have fun with it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, especially with COVID. I think a lot of, Kayla, my fiance, got me like, I think when COVID hit, they started doing like a free Peloton, like 30 or 90 days, whatever it was. And let me tell you, those 15, 20-minute core workouts, they definitely, they crush you. And it's like,
oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and it's, okay, I didn't realize that I could be smoking in like smoked actually let me rephrase that, smoked at the end of 15 minutes because of those 15-minute app workouts, and I'm dying, I'm sweating my ass off, and it feels good. But like you said, if getting back to it, if you don't see yourself coming out of COVID better than what you went in, it's incumbent upon you. You have to find something.
Right, whether it's fitness, your mental health, be a better father, be a better wife, be a better sibling.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, there's so much training out there right now, whether it's like Rosetta Stone, pick up a language like Farsi, or there's all this training too where after COVID, I got my COVID compliance safety certification through the state of California, where I can go onto movie sets and production areas and verify if people are. So there's all this stuff out there where it's like workplace violence training, or there's a lot of free stuff out there where you could have an hour a day if you're not working or you're at home working, where you can just kind of make yourself better.
You have to. Yeah.
How hard is it to do? Obviously, if you physically can't, but if you can't put the time in for push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, go for a walk, read. I mean, you should just be better every day, even before COVID. Whether it's pray harder or say nice things to people more often, whatever you do, you should be better. One step better than you were the day before. And with COVID, that should be magnified.
Yep, it's just literally 1% better than you were the day before, and that's when you try to go and you say that you're working out, and you want to get in and work out more, but people just often overlook the most important organ in your body and your brain, and you have to work your brain out, whether it's reading, learning a new language, whatever it is, just learning a new hobby like playing the guitar, whatever. I don't care. Pick something. If you don't work your brain out, then what good is it? You know what I mean?
No, it's one of those things too. Like talking to you guys, like a lot of times, and I've actually started our own podcast.
Yeah. Go ahead with the name of it.
It's called Spear Talk.
That's right. I saw it last night.
And we just got picked up for a network in Canada. It goes out to like 500,000 built-in audience viewers, and then Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. But
awesome.
Part of it, a lot of times people or like used to, hey, what are we going to talk about? Now, out of respect to the guest, I'll be like, hey, this is kind of the topics I want to go with. Obviously, it's security related, but we'll talk about fitness, mental health. We'll talk about training and stuff like that. But here's kind of like the topic of what we'll go with. But for me, I kind of like doing that, and then it's like whatever that goes through or does or wherever it leads to, it's gonna be organic. I have no notes. Now, obviously, for you guys, I know who you are just by the podcast, what you do. But I would never ask you guys or someone like you, hey, what are we going to talk about? Like that rush of thinking on the fly, which goes back to what you said, using your brain to formulate a coherent thought and talk about stuff that you're not prepared to talk about, and just have fun with it. It's that mental strength too, where you're just kind of building that muscle.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think a lot of what attracts a lot of people to podcasts and podcasting, it's that, you're not here to talk over one another. Yeah, you may disagree, whatever. Who cares if you don't agree with my political views or whatever it is? I'm not saying you in general, but it's
right.
It's being able to hear people out, let people talk without interrupting them, and and just getting like we saw with the other debate or the last debate, a couple of weeks ago, last week, it was them literally trying to talk over one another, and that's not what attracts people to any of it. Yeah, it's entertainment,
right,
but it doesn't provide you any answers at all. It's it's being able to work your brain, having an articulate thought, and even doing this has helped me. I mean, I've had concussions before, and they talk about the cognitive ability with the brain with the concussions in one area that they were in, and this has definitely helped me be able to slow down my thinking process, formulate clear thoughts. And I've even noticed it within myself that I've just become probably a lot better in articulating what I'm looking to say and talk about. So I definitely understand what you mean with that. You want the conversation that we're having, the interview that we have. Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about, obviously, I'd love to talk to you about Secret Service, to the President Obama, to Shinedown and Nickelback, but everything in between. I don't want to just talk about those four things. If the conversation branches, it's going to branch and go wherever it may lead.
No,
and that's the best thing about it.
Right. It's the totally healthy way to do it. And again, you guys you're onto something really cool here too. So, because if you notice, there's not a lot of. Sure, there's a couple of military law enforcement podcasts, but there's not a lot of just like everyday people. Like, you don't have to be a New York Times bestselling author or a quote-unquote decorated military guy or a hero law enforcement officer to have a voice. And what you guys are doing, like, obviously you guys could be those people, and some people you are. But you didn't do this because of those accolades. You're doing this just to get your voices out and maybe change lives. And for that's totally badass.
No, appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. If we can just help one person, that's all we care about. So we're not doing this for making ourselves better. We're just doing this just because, number one, it's a hobby. I don't get paid for any of this. I keep dedicating my own money to it, and so it's just it's fun, and I definitely appreciate that. So So when did you end up leaving? Or actually, excuse me, before I get to that, let's ask you real quick about a couple of the stories that you have from working at the White House. Do you have anything good you can share?
Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, the one time, I will say the job enabled me to literally travel the world, and one of the cool places we did, when Obama did that huge kind of run through like India, Israel, Jakarta, like we went out there. We got sent to, I was part of the Jakarta team, and that's the first time I've left the country, besides kind of like Ireland, like Europe. But I consider everything past Europe into like that area kind of like the unknown at the time.
Okay.
And when you get to Jakarta, you're kind of like, where are we? Like, is this literally, are we on planet Earth? Because we land, and then as soon as we land, obviously we can carry our firearms and all that stuff, but they have to verify that the serial numbers go with whoever, obviously the person owns the gun, and the government's there to check off on the consulate, the embassy, everything gets verified. So we take the motorcade, and we're all heading towards the hotel, but the whole time you're kind of driving through burning barrels, 30 people on the top of a train car, 6 people riding a moped, weaving it out of traffic.
Like those typical memes that you see.
No, right? Where are this looks like a Hollywood movie where it's like Liam Neeson evading like people through a jungle, and I'm just like, this is so awkward. It's not awkward in a sense of like it's just like it's kind of eye opening. But we get to our hotel, this beautiful 5-star hotel, literally right here in Jakarta, and across the street is people burning barrels barefoot, thatch roofs, and so it was kind of like you kind of step back and you're like, man, here we are with the leader of the free world in a place that not a lot of people go to or say that even want to sign up to go to, and here we are like making a difference in helping whatever with the I don't know what the goal was of the trip, but just to be there, you're kind of stuff like that. You're just kind of you step back down. You're like, man, I went there. And then so another trip, we went to Israel with pals, like to do all that stuff. I went on the Gaza Strip, went to the Tomb of Jesus in Bethlehem. You get escorted around by like the Shin Bet or like the Israeli forces there. But it was even seeing that you always read about Israel hates Palestine, Palestine hates Israel. You get there, you're like, well, this can't be real, and sure enough, like you're like, holy shit, they actually certain aspects of each other's government, they actually do hate each other. There's that real to actually see that tension where we get escorted from Israel with our team. You get to the Palestine area, our team has to drop off, or only select few get to allow come in, and then the Palestinians take over for the driving. It's just like they don't. It's just funny how people think like that. How there is so much hatred and religious persecution, but it's a real thing. But you're kind of. I mean, I've met and seen every world leader. I remember when they announced that Obama had been killed, and at the White House, not Obama, and I remember watching I think it was the Phillies game on TV, and they announced it, and all of a sudden our work phones are going off, saying, "Hey, you're gonna come into the White House because we're expecting a lot of people." And that was one of the times too where everyone literally rushed into like Lafayette Square and in front of the White House, screaming "USA," American flags, people drinking, climbing the trees.
They're to
that's
celebrate.
one of those rare moments where you're kind of like, this is like everyone coming together, gay, straight, white, black, like everyone's here for America. We got this asshole.
Yep.
But there's always stuff like that. I mean, you always work in there. You'd always see like the original White House. I know I talked about the Mrs. Carey thing, but you see the burn marks from the original 1812 storming of the White House. You can actually touch those burn marks.
I remember you saying that. That was kind of just fascinating to me to be able to hear that, and it was like, holy crap, that's still there and preserved.
Right. And you can touch it, and you just kind of respect the office. I think one of the things too is like, love or hate, whether it's Obama or Trump or whoever, like respect the office.
Yeah.
You might disagree with politics, but at the end of the day, like that's something so obviously so historical and important to not only the United States but the world in general, and just respect that. I think it's something where everyone should go to just to walk around and just appreciate and be like, this is very significant. And I think a lot of times people take that for granted, and it's the president represents more. Yeah, I know. I get the sense he's kind of like he represents America. Well, he represents. It's a position that you represent the red, white, and blue, the people that sacrifice for this country, and to have people name calling on both sides to whoever the president is, it just kind of takes away from the fact that, hey, we are still human, and there should be empathy towards all this. But the training was great in the Secret Service. Like, there's just all the cool training you can do, all the scenario-based stuff, and yeah, I mean, I don't regret any of that. Like going, like checking out Air Force One and doing that stuff, or working with like the military guys outside the West Wing, or like Marine One guys. It's just so cool. And one of the coolest things you can see there, when like the president would walk out like the West Wing, like the Marine just fucking opening that door and looking like a badass. It's just so cool seeing like working with those guys, and some of those guys when we had like days off and we could get to know them and kind of like decompress or not go party, but have a good time.
Yeah,
like just awesome. Just those guys, they're just rock stars. And it was really cool seeing like how pride it was to open that door for the president.
Yeah, I bet. No, but I bet definitely it was. I mean, it's just an honor to have that privilege. I mean, people want like I would love to go work at the White House. It would be great to go do that. But just to have the honor and that privilege of protecting the guy man or woman who is there to lead America and represents, like you said, it doesn't. The fact that they don't represent the American people, or they do represent the American people, but we're all one. We're all united at
100%.
At that level, and just to have that honor of being in that historical building, being able to take the sights and sounds and be a part of those large events, not only just at DEC but at a national level, like with when they took down Osama and to be there for the first African American president in history. So it's to be there at that level. It must have been just amazing.
Yeah, no, it's there's always like even events maybe not necessarily tied to the White House, but like events like Rolling Thunder with the veterans, or right across the streets all the veteran memorials, which are inspiring. Lincoln Memorial, you got the Washington Monument, you got the museums. And it's like if you step back, you're kind of like, man, this is a cool part of my life.
Yeah, I bet. So you eventually, how did you get wrapped up into coming from there? Obviously, you said in 2012 you were home for 21 days, and that's being home in Mass, or is that being home at like?
Yeah, like that's just not being on the road. Like I had 20 days to myself where I could do what I wanted.
Oh, did you ever get days off when you were like?
Yeah, there are days off. You go to the movies. You could go. You could drink if you want, but you have to. I think 8 hours before your shift, you can't obviously have drinking alcohol, but you can still go out with your buddies, go to the movies, go to sporting events, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there was that aspect where, again, to go back to mental health, you can at least kind of break up the monotony of looking at the same people talk literally every day.
Yeah.
And, you got to unwind somehow.
No, 100%. And so there was that. But so in 2012, I believe, or 2013, I met my now CEO, Chris Loudon, and he was out doing security for Charlie Sheen after Charlie Sheen kind of left 2.5 Men. And he was doing that huge kind of crazy tour.
Because, Charlie was kind of falling off the bandwagon at that point, wasn't he?
Right, and he went on that crazy tour across the country, like Torpedo of Truth, where it was insane. It was like Cirque du Soleil on steroids. And so we were backstage, and we're talking to, because I knew his manager at the time, and we are hanging out. I see Chris kind of in the corner, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go talk to him because I know why he's there. Like he looks like security. I'm talking to him, and he's telling me about he's served in the Marine Corps back in the whatever, and he has a security company. He was doing stuff with Nickelback, like System of a Down, Motley Crue, like all this stuff, and I was like, well, here's my info. Like we kept talking. Like screw Charlie. Like I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but this is something here. This is a guy here that I love what this is doing. It's still security protection, but it's something where I've always been enthralled by kind of music or Hollywood.
Yeah, well, I mean, you grew up listening to AAF back in the day, right? So
right. So there's that kind of connection there.
Yeah.
And sure enough, after the campaign, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about leaving 2014 or so. What do I have to do to start kind of making the transition? Not on my end per se, but is there room for me to come over? And so he's like, hell yeah, we did it. We rebranded the company, and from there we've kind of gone from doing the tours to now we do all these theme cruises on ships to festivals, award shows, tour of the world, risk assessments. We're opening up a training school in Florida in like 2 weeks. So it's a lot of fun. I can kind of be my own boss per se.
Yep.
That I only answer to Chris, and but I mean, the people on the road. I have to answer to. I have to network. I have to check on clients. There's always a nonstop type of work. With COVID, obviously, the touring and event side slowed down at the beginning. I'm actually on the road right now with Smith and Myers, the
Okay.
offshoot of Shinedown.
Yeah.
But there's with the touring and like the event side kind of slowed down. Our side where it deals with the state security, especially when the kind of the riots and protests kicked off in California, like Beverly Hills, like we watch a bunch of clients out there where we had to watch their houses because people are launching fireworks and shooting guns or breaking down fences.
Yep.
And this is all stuff that was actively happening. The media is not going to say whatever, but I have pictures and video of literally this stuff happening. And
no, the media is not going to show that at all.
No,
it doesn't suit their agenda.
Of course not, because these are all the Hollywood people that are going on, they bashing the president or whoever, saying this isn't real. Well, I'm watching your house outside. It is real. Yeah. And so you work on that one piece of the pie. I kind of launched the podcast stuff we talked about. And so it's just kind of like, again, you have to adapt or die. Like as the situations, the world changes, you have to kind of move with it. And it goes back to what you guys talked about earlier. You got to get better every day and do it.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like you guys have, from when you're transitioned out of the Secret Service to that, it seems like it would be kind of, in one aspect, it's completely different, but in the other aspect, it's almost the same exact thing that what you're doing. It's so
right.
You went back. Right. You went from obviously you have that regimented lifestyle and being told. No, I'm gonna say being told where you're going, what you're doing, but it's at the whim of somebody else where you're going and what you're doing, and kind of the same way now, especially with rock stars, from what I know.
It's yes, the Secret Service is you do your schedule, like obviously, but the only times stuff would change is if there's an emergency or an event that happens where it changes stuff, or they're going through, like, say, the healthcare summit, which Obama did. Those hours are always changing, movements and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the private sector, if I'm on tour, you'll know the tour dates, what hotels you're at, all the shows, like that. That's all. The only time that you really have an unknown is if one of your guys is like, hey, let's go to the movies or go to the restaurant. I want to go here. So now you have to start advancing that, making sure you get in and out, that type of stuff. But, as long as you're prepared, I guess it's not – I'm used to it now. I mean, it's probably easier for me to say that.
I was going to say, it's like anything. Once you're in it, you're learning from experience, and now you're knowing what to do, a lot more.
I mean, there's a ton of failures in certain aspects where you have to learn from your mistakes. And I think having a mistake is healthy. As long as it's something you approve on, obviously.
We've all made mistakes, and as long as you can, none of us are perfect. We're all humans, and we all move forward.
Right. And so I mean, there's definitely some craziness, and I know when a tour is coming 6 to 8 months out.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm caught off guard by a sense of, I got somebody to watch my dog, or I got to tell my kids or my wife, or I got to park, I gotta whatever. So that stuff like that doesn't really catch you off guard. But there is still you deal with a lot more. Like one of the big changes is obviously in the Secret Service. I could carry my firearm, I could fly with it, like whatever. But now I don't really carry a firearm on the road, because if you're traveling on a bus through different jurisdictions, whether it's D.C., California, New York, Massachusetts, like there's gun laws are always changing.
Yeah.
And it's not worth the hassle, and God forbid you have to use it. And as you guys know, if you're pulling your gun out, you just can't transition to anything else. Like you have to get ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And why have that over your head because you represent not only yourself, your company, but now the band and the crew, and there's different stuff. There's different stuff you kind of have to work with there in that sense. You're not just a lone gunman out there. Like you have to. There are laws and rules you have to follow.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. How was that transition for you? Was that kind of difficult?
What, losing the firearm?
Yeah, and you talk a lot. I mean, a lot of guys say that it is, and I don't know. I've never talked.
I've never been a gun nut per se.
Okay.
I've grown up with cousins and uncles with hunting, whether it's woodchuck or deer season and stuff like that. So I've always had a BB gun growing up. Like I love guns.
Yeah.
I love Hollywood. I love the movies with Rambo and all that shit. So like I was never someone that like oh, I need to do Guns and Ammo magazine. Look at the scope, or oh, look at my tritium night sights. Like I don't care. And I'm just like,
as long as it goes
right,
bang.
as long as it works, as long as I can take it apart, clean it, as long as I can know how to handle it and respect it, like that's all I care about. It's just another tool on my belt that, hey, I still have to articulate whether I use this or God through the baton, or you have to put hands on someone. What are you doing? And so, but losing it, like I don't. I never really was like, whatever. Like now I got to do something different. But I mean, I still. I know in Florida we'll be launching because we work with F1 Firearms.
Okay.
With getting like their weapons and firearms and stuff to our teams and stuff. So like, I'm still always around the firearms.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not a guy that's like, hey, sending pictures to other gun nuts, going, hey, look at these new hollow points I made.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Stop. Like, just stop.
We all know some of those people, don't we, Phil?
Right. But
fewer and fewer now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, it's I've always heard it from people that it's just weird, not especially the ones that were in the military to, being a cop and whatever, and even if they did a entire career in law enforcement, that it's just like it's weird not having that gun on you all the time. Not that we're using it every day, not that we want to even use it every day, but it's just weird not having it there. And so that's why I asked that question. But like you said, it's just a tool. It's the last tool on your belt. It's something you got to be proficient in, but it's the last tool on your belt, and it's how well can you de-escalate situations with just your words and your posture and the way that you're talking to people. How well can you de-escalate things just by doing that? And that's what people have to be more concerned with. And I think the public doesn't understand that I think if you were to ask, I understand, but all media is narrow focused on their own points of view. But if you were to ask some people, on the media, especially in the left-hand side of things, that where or what do they think about police officers that was just some gun-toting, radicals out there? That's not the way we are. People. Police officers are skilled to the point where they are able to de-escalate things verbally, and just by their presence and being there, that they're able to de-escalate situations, and obviously that kind of rolls right over to your realm, where you could have some drunk idiot who's trying to get up on stage, or you're out at the movies with these guys and their families, or you're out grabbing dinner. And if I was a celebrity, I think what would get very old very quick would be people coming up to me if I was out with my family and they're looking for pictures at the it's like, dude, I'm with my I don't have any kids, but I'm for sake of argument, 3 or 4 year old kid. I'm like, and my wife, I'm like, what? No, but there's a time and place for everything.
No, it's like you said it best. Like, you have to be able to articulate your actions, and if that's 9 times out of 10 the time where you're kind of like, it's the same stuff. It's when you have like the fan that, quote unquote, the band saved their life, or they've been writing these crazy letters or notes, and they show up to a show backstage, and that's where you get kind of, because there is an unknown. Like, you look at the Dimebag Darrell stuff.
I was just going to say that.
And then even now, in the day and age where it's Manchester, Ariana Grande, or Las Vegas, or Bataclan in Paris, like there's always that outside worry. But if you could, how you deal with people, if I'm dealing with a drunk guy in a crowd, or a guy that looks like he's getting aggressive with maybe his friends or a girlfriend or something, sure, he's drunk, and my first thought, if I wasn't working, I'd be like, I got to knock this guy out. But that's not the right way to handle it, because you represent yourself. There's laws. And so able to de-escalate and deal with people, that's the toughest part of this job. And that's where a lot of people fail, because they let their feelings get the best of them, but they don't know how to de-escalate or deal with a situation as it comes up.
Oh yeah, exactly. And you look at it, especially. Okay, I can only imagine that 95% of the people that you're dealing with are probably intoxicated. And it's kind of like the same thing with us, that, they're at concerts or wherever they are, they're at a restaurant, and it's just like, okay, well, whatever. It's like being a cop in a small area where we are. People think that they know your life better than you, and they're drunk and they're barking at you about mistakes you've made in the past, and it's just like you got to let it go in one ear, out the other, and yeah, it just like not take it personally, and just gotta do your job at the time. Especially in the security side of it, it's recognizing that you don't work for yourself. You're out there promoting not only the band, but the band, the company, the venue, everything. It's
right. Like you're bigger. This is bigger than you as an individual.
Yeah.
And just be an efficient, professional part of that cog of that machine there. And that's probably my best advice to people for that type of.
Yeah, definitely.
That type of stuff right
definitely.
there.
How was it with, did you like, okay, you can't really be starstruck when you go from being like working with the president to, working.
Yeah, I mean, I've met seen every world leader in person. I have every artist, every celebrity. Like, there's not many I have not met or been with personally.
Well, plus, and I was hearing you talk about when you're on Carrie's podcast that you're hanging out with the Red Sox because they were there at the White House, and it's like I didn't even think about that.
All those people. I mean, yeah, you just kind of, for me, like stuff like that's cool because I'm from the area, obviously, so I have that kind of attachment towards that team or that franchise. But like
hanging out with Brady,
seeing David Ortiz and like Franco, like all those guys, like just how good that stuff right there is. Like for me, it's like that's kind of cool. Like but again, they're all human, and so I've always been. I have more fear and respect towards loved ones and family members, and I'm in awe of them more than I am of a celebrity. They're just people. Everyone has good and bad days, and for me, there's not many people I'm like, holy shit, like this is bad, like this is I'm shaking, like that. I just can't have that happen. It's not me.
Yeah.
Now, are there people I'd want to say meet just to say like talk to them or whatever? Like people like Elon Musk, I'm fascinated by people like that.
Mm-hmm. Who else?
But I'm not. God. Now, if I bring someone back, it'd be Johnny Cash for sure. Johnny Cash and John Wayne. But right now,
John Wayne. Yep.
Elon Musk, Clint Eastwood. Well, I've met him a bunch of times. But just to have like a personal one-on-one time with him would be cool.
Yeah.
They're out there. I would have to think of some, but I mean, you have to be a professional at all times because everyone's watching you in this day and age with cell phones. Oh, God. And you really, unless you're in your room, locked under your blankets or in the shower, and even then, people might be watching you. So,
I know, right?
Yeah, make sure your laptop's closed.
Yeah, some people that we deal with, they think that there's, especially a guy last night I was dealing with, is like, I got cameras on you guys inside here, all these webcams. I'm like, dude, you're holding up your cell phone. I don't see any other cameras anywhere. But then I'm thinking to myself, you never know. They could be in the friggin' stuffed animal that.
Right. Yeah, but, it's ridiculous. But here's the thing too about that. Like, people shouldn't be afraid of that. If you're doing the right job,
exactly,
or being honest and with integrity, what do you have to worry about?
Yeah. No, you're fine. It's
now,
fine.
like you guys, if I was the one thing about being a cop from my buddies, I'm sure you like just hearing, oh, I'm recording you. Like, if you get pulled over, buddy, you were speeding. You're not in some free state. Hand over your license. Listen to what the cop is saying. Like, how hard is that?
Well, for me,
when I see stuff like that, I'm like, I want to hit all these people.
For me, I have fun with it because then I go, you know what? Double click my chest. It's on you, buddy, because I am too.
Right. I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, stop weaponizing your camera. Like,
yeah.
If you're a good quote unquote guy that got pulled over, and that's a good cop, and what do you have to worry about? It's just two people working out a problem. And if there's a problem, here's the next step legally.
Yep.
And then have a nice day. Be safe.
Yep.
So it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think I think Phil and I think we always had that. We really didn't have any issues when it came to it because like I was talking about, we're the city where we are from. It's very busy. It's very active. I mean, we'll probably pull about 850 arrests this year, and the population itself is only like 9,000 people. And so we were actually dealing with that. Like, we're dealing with that whole population of, deal with 10% of the population 90% of the time. But, so a lot of people knew Phil from when he probably was growing up in the area that he was even dealing with or arresting. And so I I don't think it was probably nearly as harder for him because they recognized that he did go away, that he did have combat deployments, and that, especially like somebody like me where I wasn't from the area, but I think a lot of people recognize that, like, hey, I'm older in life, I've done this. It says 2010 on my nameplate that, that we're kind of humbled, and people recognize that we have a lot more life experience than the newer guys out there. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just the fact that if you're from a small town, which a lot of the police departments in America are very small, over half are like less than 10 full-time cops, but just kind of being humble and just being able to talk to people, de-escalate the situation. Like, hey, man, yeah, okay, you were doing 18 over. Like, it's not the end of the world, dude. We're gonna get through this. I might write you a ticket for doing 6 over. I'm not going to write you the ticket for doing 18. Like, at one point in time during this interaction, you were doing 6 miles an hour over. So there's my justification for doing it. So that's okay. Right. So it's like, I'm going to cut you a break if you can just, recognize that, like, hey, you're having a bad day. We've all had bad days. I've had them. So we just move on from there.
Right.
But yeah, so how was that, so this is your own security company that you, or actually, excuse me.
Yes, I am second. I'm the chief operating officer, and then I answer to Chris Loudon, the CEO. Then we have a vice president, we have an office manager. Our PPO manager is an LA sheriff in California. And so we have, everyone there's 3 or 4 of us that are like in the top of the company, and then everyone else is career security professionals or military guys or law enforcement. And so we work with a full kind of conglomerate of people with interesting and unique backgrounds that make them efficient in our world.
Yeah, no. So does your company itself work, or actually, as you were explaining earlier, your company does work with the military to help that transition for veterans?
Yes, the program is called Skill Bridge, and one of our top people, that's come from there, was a Marine that we helped for the 6 months. Kind of, hey, if you want to get in the security world, we'll kind of show you the ropes. You'll do a tour with us. You'll kind of see how we deal with the public, because it's going from that civilian atmosphere where you still are going to have the same assholes, but now you're going to handle it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And so,
what's his name?
His name was Colton.
Okay. I don't know. Marine Corps is a small world, so I didn't know if that was in a...
Yeah. So dealing with that, and then we kind of, our guy, Max Retforth, his dad's really happy in the Marine Corps. Max is actually, he's a director of our events and special projects. And so it's just cool seeing someone that's obviously high level, like the thinking, that gut, like hard charging Marine, to actually see him kind of slowly get into like this world where it's dealing with promoters or local law enforcement or local staff, and just really integrating himself in the security world. And so seeing stuff like that, like, it makes you happy that programs like that, like Skill Bridge, like it's cool that those options. I know, Phil, you had talked about earlier, kind of like programs like that help you kind of. Let's have this meeting, because if you're going to leave the military, let's make sure these guys understand financials, investing, retirement, how they can work their pension, and then what other opportunities out there for them to help them get there, who they can reach out to. Like, there's all these programs out there that it's cool to work with some that kind of help these men and women kind of transition out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem would be there's definitely programs out there, and there's great ones out there. I think it's a matter of maybe some pride for some people that they don't reach out and take advantage of those programs. And they're doing themselves a disservice, and maybe they have a plan and they're all set. But either way, it wouldn't hurt to try. And I think that's kind of what that class that I'm talking about that I went to,
right.
Basically, like, everyone has to go to that class, no matter if you're, Corporal Schmuckatelli, doing 4 years and getting out, or, a
it was like
full bird colonel, and
Yeah.
you know, it's your 25 years, and maybe you didn't get picked up, you know, for brigadier general, and it's time to go. You're all going through that little transition class.
Right.
It was like me, going there when I went into the Army at 29, turning 30 years old, and they would have you go down until like you're there with everybody else. So the people who are at that same point in their military career, so they're younger in life than I was, and move my phone because I was getting a little feedback there. Sorry. So yeah, they're at the same point, and it's like, well, going through these same classes initially, it's like, well, don't buy that 5-year-old Mustang at 28% interest rate and 100,000 miles on it. Like, you got to make some better financial decisions. And I think that when people are getting out of the military, that they, like Phil was saying, that they either have some sort of plan in mind, but a lot of those classes that he's talking of are all forced upon you, right, Phil?
Yeah, that one is the only one that I can think of that I went to, and it was mandated. Like, that's a check in the box on your EAS paperwork, that you took that class.
Yeah.
And I think that they gave you available programs to go. I had a pretty solid plan in my mind.
Yeah.
So I did not do anything else besides that, but I did pick up job interviews and dressing and
all that sort of stuff.
A little bit of just appropriate attitude and body language behavior that I think helped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely good information if you're there and actually try and absorb it.
Yeah, and it's funny that John, you were talking about financials and people teaching about financials and talking about it and make sure that they're good with their money. And it's funny because I'll be 33 in a month, and
Yep.
and so with the new guys that get hired at the PD, I'm like, I made the same mistakes, and I literally, when I graduated the academy, because I was still living at home with my parents, I went out and bought a truck and bought a boat. And the buying of the boat was probably the worst decision because it was just a money pit, a hole in the water. I just kept tossing money into, and it's just like, okay. And my dad was trying to, at the time, he's like, don't do that. Go out and invest it. And it's like, put it in the market. It'll work for you. It'll have its returns. Just give it time. And I find myself doing that now with the younger guys that are like going out there and buying guns and whatnot. It's like,
Right.
you don't need that $1,000 rifle. Yeah, we all want it, and we all would love to have it. But at the same time, like, dude, put that in the market. Let it play. You don't need that, or like, make some better like money decisions, and you won't be having to work all that overtime, and the money will just keep growing and growing and growing.
Right. And here's the thing too: you can eventually get that boat or that gun.
Exactly.
Do it the smart way, though.
Yeah. Don't put yourself in debt because of it.
Right.
So what do you have going on for you now with COVID? Anything else? You've been stuck at home since March.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing, again, like the podcast stuff, and then kind of getting ready for everything that's coming out. Just waiting for stuff to open up with like training school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm actively on the road, actually, with Smith
That's right.
Myers,
You were saying that.
which is Brent and Zach from Shinedown,
Okay.
doing all the drive-in tours.
Yeah. So how's that been going for you? Because now you got, as you were talking earlier, you've done a bunch of the VBID classes, and obviously, you're going through regular concerts. Yeah, you're worried about the person trying to, okay, I mean, maybe not you per se worried about them sneaking alcohol or drugs in, but, you're worried about the overall safety for everybody in the area. So you're worried about them bringing, guns or knives or whatever they can sneak into a pocket or a backpack. But now you got a whole new aspect of a car being there.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like you said perfectly, like I'm not there to, now if I'm not the DEA there, like I don't, and if my team's on there doing security, I'm not telling them to be the DEA and AT, whatever that is, that stuff, that world. So obviously you're looking for knives, or you're looking for, hey, if this guy has a bag of weed or it looks like a vial of powder, like clearly there's stuff, like, okay, now get the cops involved, take care of this. If people have a joint or something, like I don't. Now, obviously, if there's a fire issue, or I get that.
Yeah.
But with the drive-in stuff, there is now, like, my first concern was, well, how far are these people parked from the stage? Two, will that even really matter if there is gasoline and bird seed and grass seed and all, nitrate in the car with propane? You're going to kill a lot of people. And so part of the advance is to see what the local security is doing with, like, trunk checks, car checks. If it smells like gasoline or there's a weird odor, do a secondary search. A lot of these, depending on where the cities are, you can advance, like, a law enforcement's obviously there, but a K-9 unit to kind of walk around the car to see if there's any weird hits and stuff with that stuff. But, yeah, I mean, nothing's really happened so far, which is, knock on wood, great. It's definitely something you have to be cognizant of, and it's just another thing you get used to now. And
when are they talking about concerts going back to normal? Anytime soon? I mean, obviously, depending state to state.
There is like the state level has to make the call. The federal can only do so much, but there's a lot of politics involved, obviously. But they're fighting in Congress now. People like Michael Strickland with Bandit Lighting and a lot of these, like, Live Nation and promoters like that are trying to get a hard date for, hey, when this is the date that stuff has to go back to normal, because the amount of lives, and I mean, you're talking thousands of people's careers that are lost now because COVID decimated their industry.
I mean, let's look at just picking one thing. Let's look at the Fenway Park not being in a Red Sox not playing.
It's crazy.
You're losing concessions,
right?
You know, the guys
field.
Yep.
The guys cutting grass, the guys that are painting, the guys that are cleaning the seats,
the parking lot guys.
Right. I mean, everything is security, the law enforcement. That's a lot of overtime hours that aren't there anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now they're picking them up through protests and stuff, but
yeah,
there is a huge. It's incredible how, like, it's just laundry mats, catering. Like, it's just crazy how everything is just kind of hotels now with less people coming to see games.
Yep,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, no, the bars that are closing on Causeway Street, like, it's just, there is a ripple effect to it. And so they're fighting right now to kind of get that date where, hey, this is the restart. This is what we need to happen. But until then, people are going to adapt. The driving stuff's going great. It's just, I mean, you see stuff like Broadway or Cirque du Soleil or, like, Monster Truck, and even, like, professional wrestling, WWE, they've had to go full kind of, like, no audience and get unique with technology. And so it's cool to see that. It's unfortunate we have to, but you definitely, again, you have to adapt or die.
Yeah, exactly. And so you guys adapted and you started that. You're starting, or should be opening in 2 weeks, you said, your own security down in Florida, security company training?
We have, we'll be doing, like, the D&G guard car classes. Everything from CCW to weapon retention to all that stuff. We have a range. We have great instructors for that stuff.
You looking for a couple, guest instructors at all?
Yeah, I mean, we will down the line once we get. The thing right now is, like, this Florida, you can only have so many certain people inside.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for, like, when we can properly do what we want to do with no restrictions per se with COVID, but. I put together an EP bodyguard class that talks about everything that I do. And then we have a lot of specialized training with a lot of cool guests coming in, like world champion kickboxers, UFC fighters, where we'll be talking about weapon retention and street defense and all stuff that's practical.
For anybody, not even just law enforcement. Right.
Bullying, women's classes, like, just running. For me, the idea of training has to be practical and real. And so I'm all about the hands-on kind of. There's only so much you can learn from a book, and you guys would know. Yeah. Your best training is the hands-on, the room clearing, the CQB, the mock, pulling people over, dealing with crazy situations. Like, for me, that's the rush, and that's where I get my most learning out of.
Yeah, and you know what? That's where you perfect everything. And you look at, we're both on the SWAT team, and it's a next level of expertise, but what are really the experts in? We're experts at the basics of everything. I mean, not really one thing. It's just being able to do the basics pretty damn well. whether it's room clearing or pulling people over or high risk stops or, whatever it is, you name it. And it's just, to make yourself better, just being the experts. It's not that we are better. It's not that we, put our pants on any differently than anybody else. It's just the fact that you do everything, you do the basics really well.
So you guys are both in the SWAT?
Yes.
One of the, during when I was down to the training, like we do some like very minimal training where it's like barricade suspect.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever that's something that I wish I could do more of because it's like, there's a rush there, but the ability for you guys to navigate in the unknown with a situation because you don't know what's behind that door, and to able to do what you guys do it's got to be, and it is incredible. But to be part of that, to kind of see it, I'm sure it's pretty eye opening. I wish more people could kind of like definitely, because every time it's in the news, you're kind of like, I don't know if you guys kind of Monday quarterback it. I know it's not healthy, but I'm sure you guys like me are kind of like, well, if I was there, what would I do? Like that type of thinking. So how do you guys kind of trade with that? Is there a scenario that would scare you guys the most? Or how do you – because that's something you don't know literally what's behind that door.
So let's look at like this. Let's speak about active shooters real quick. Active shooters, the SWAT team's not going to be there for. Very, very minimal, very small percentage that they're actually going to make it to the scene and be a deployed SWAT team. Because let's face it, you're going to have some guys that may be SWAT trained and on the team, they're just not going to have all their stuff there. So
by the time the team gets there, it's no longer an active shooter. It's either over, barricaded subject, hostage situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, it's escalated to something like that.
Yeah, and so speaking from an ongoing barricaded subject, sort of thing. I enjoy it because it's a new complex. It's a changing environment, and you're trying to, strategically place guys or men and women. I use guys interchangeably, men and women throughout the scene and where you need them. You gotta think about. You're thinking about as much as the actual situation that's going on to the neighbors that are across the street or beside the building. Where are they? To do I have to? Am I gonna have to cut power to this guy's house at some point in time? To who are they and what are the legal ramifications of me being here? Because me just being here itself, I might not even be talking to the person, but me just being on scene, and fully dressed and fully operational as a SWAT team operator is going to be it's a next level of force. So there's a complex and changing environment, and like you said, that's the rush to me is, let's face it, like I always wanted to be on the SWAT team, and I love kicking down doors, and so
it's the flashbang.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the flashbang going off, and it's riding that bang right in there, and it's not knowing beyond the door that's kind of where I love it. I don't know why. It people just may think that's weird, but I don't know. I can't even tell you why I like it so much. I just do. It's just a part of who I am. I think it's just a challenge of it. It's just, I don't know. Yeah.
To kind of tie this back to mental health, you can't have really a bad day if you're at that scene of whatever is happening, and so it's so important for you guys to. I know we talked about, but to have that mental health kind of like that stability, because you're dealing with human life now in a situation that is precarious, and so it's inspiring for you guys to do that. Like really love what you do and actually be the people to do that.
Yeah, well, I think I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of it. I know Phil's probably the same way of me. Of when that tone goes off or whatever it is that you got to be here at this time for this situation, whether it's a planned warrant or a ongoing barricade. There's always that same 5, 10, 15 minutes of buildup. I mean, you still have, because I could be, my phone could be going off right now, and I gotta end this and go. And there's always that 10 minutes of me. I 10 to 15 minutes. I got to get to the PD, get changed, and go. And there's that because I love that point, because I'd throw on my rock music or whatever music it is at the time. I crank it up to a lot. I mean, and whatever. I'm driving down the street. I crank it up as loud as I can take it, and I literally clear my mind. And I don't know the psychological aspect behind that, and I can't explain it to you.
You have to. You got to put on that mental toughness, and I think that goes with your mental health.
Yeah,
you have to be prepared to go in and do what you've trained to do. No matter, no one wants to be in those worst case scenarios, but that's what you have trained for and put yourself into and dedicated your life to doing.
Yeah,
and so you have to put on your mental armor and get ready to go. And
I wish people could understand that you guys are going to these scenes, but you can't be bringing that you just had a fight with your spouse.
You can't bring
your kids are sick, or your parents are in the hospital. Like, you can't bring that. For that time you're on scene, like, you have to be so locked in.
Yeah, and I think what helps me is you're completely 100% correct. I mean, you have to be able to recognize that, hey man, you gotta shut it off and leave it at home. And what helps me is, I don't know if it's just that little aspect of just the one little change that I don't come home in uniform. So
I like that. Yeah, leave it at work.
Yeah, I mean, I bring it home because I gotta wash it. And that's about it. But like, I came home this morning in uniform just because it was one of those, like, just short turnarounds and whatever it was. And I hate doing that. And for me, it's literally shedding that armor, like you said. It's like, dude, all right, I'm taking my t-shirt, my jeans off, put my uniform on, tying my boots. Let's go. I'm at work. I'm in front of my locker. It's that whole mental headspace that I'm in. I'm clear. I'm here. And when I'm done my shift at 6 a.m., I strip, throw my uniform in my locker, put my jeans and my t-shirt back on, and you know what? I don't even care if I'm like stopping at Cumberland Farms on the way home to grab whatever it is, Diet Coke or coffee. I don't care. But, it's just it's that one little aspect of, hey man, I can literally go do whatever I want right now, and people like aren't going to see me as the cop. They may know who I am, but it's just that one little thing.
Right.
But no, it's definitely a rush. I mean, I know Phil was over there blasting Miley Cyrus back in the day while he was going to, raid houses or whatever it was.
Yeah, and, doing the Titanic theme.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, John. This has been definitely a great episode, and you know what? I hopefully we can keep this dialogue open and have you on for future episodes as well.
No, 100%. And I have a bunch of like guest ideas. I think you guys would love. That I'll send you away too.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate that. So, Phil, you have anything else you want to say at the end over here, man?
No, I appreciate all the expertise, John, and the career path that you've gone through to be able to take that such premier level of security that you did and be able to really market yourself and to move on, transition, and to take the career path and to see all the adventures that you have. I think that's awesome. And I think that is kind of the dream that a lot of people, wish that they could do, of just being able to do exactly what you want to do and have fun with it and go, but still grow, like you're saying, like, hey, this is COVID and things aren't great right now, but we're going to get through it. I'm going to be better on the other end when things can hopefully go back to a more normal state. I think it's awesome.
No, thank you. And again, guys, it was an honor to be on here. Keep up the good fight, especially with mental health, and stay safe out there doing what you do. Man. And I'm glad you guys are out there doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It definitely means a lot. Do you have anything that you want to plug, or how can people get a hold of you?
I think I've said what I need to say. I guess I like the you guys have a great format here, and it's kind of cool just to talk to two other people that get it. So
yeah, I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. Well, Phil, how can people find us? Do you remember right now?
I think I do. People can find us wherever you look up normal podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. We're on Instagram at Point Man Podcast. Shoot us a direct message. We read them all, even the bad stuff, but we appreciate the good. And if you have questions, you want to reach out, you need something, you need help. If we can't help you directly, we can definitely try and point you in the right direction and make sure that you're getting through the day and you can find that mental armor to keep going and to put up the good fight.
Yeah, man. I couldn't have said it for any better myself.
I know. That's why I said it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you being here, and everybody
Awesome.
have a good day, John.
Awesome. Thank you.